Hey guys, just to do a video. The Springbok team has been announced. It's left already. It left on Saturday night for Buenos Aires. They've arrived in Buenos Aires already. We've already got an update from them, but it's going to be interesting to see how the team selection sets out for Tuesday. But yes, just thought give you some thoughts on the squad that went over. I think there's a couple of telling remarks that you have to make out of that squad from what you can see, and we'll go through it right now. Firstly, I think. It's good that a number of players are staying back in South Africa. They're giving them some rest. They'll be training under the watchful eye of Rassie Erasmus while they're here. Most of the frontline players, most of the guys who played in the test on Saturday. There is obviously no captain at the moment being announced. It's going to be interesting to see who that is that gets named, and we'll speak about it now as well. One of the first telling points, I think, is the name that isn't there is Elton Yankees. Now, I think that just confirms what we all know, is that Elton is sort of seen as a backup in case there's, is a real sort of bunch of injuries, and they brought him as cover, but he's not really in their World Cup plans as such. So I think that's come to the fore there, and he sort of played himself out last year and with a number of other issues as well. But yeah, the fact that he's not there means that they've got enough confidence in Manie de Bok that he will be the second fly-off, and Damian Willemse will cover as the utility. And I think we'll see that. We'll probably see Manie play again this week, and Damian somewhere probably on the bench as such. But yeah, no, sorry, he won't be on the bench. I lie. He will be probably at fullback this week. So I forgot Willie Leroux's staying at home, so that obviously means Damian's probably going to play. They do have the option of playing Kurt the Arendse, which I'm not sure they will, but that is also an option for them. And given that they will still experiment a little bit, who knows what they're going to come up with. So let's see what happens there. Then the next point that comes up is who's going to be the captain. I think let's first go through the team as such and talk about who's been included, and then we'll go from there. I think if you look at it, utility back Damian Willemse. I'm going to go from the backs to the forwards rather, just to make it a bit easier. No surprise there. I think they want to probably start him a game, and I wouldn't be surprised. Outside backs: Kainan Moody, Makazole Mapimpi, and Kurt the Arendse. Curtly gives you a great option off the bench if you need to, or Damian on the bench. I think Makazole and Kainan will probably play. They do need some game time. And Makazole has sort of fallen out of favour, so they want to give him another chance. Andre Estes and the Kanye Am and Jesse Kriel. There again, we're going to probably see a combination, one guy on the bench, whoever that will be. But I wouldn't be surprised if Andre Estes gets a start and Jesse Kriel alongside him. I think Jesse did very well on Saturday. He played extremely well. His tackle technique, his defensive lines, is a guy who marshals the defense exceptionally well. I think what we'll probably see is a guy like Lukanya on the bench, because he also can cover wing, so they'll do that. Although if he comes into the equation as a captaincy candidate, then that might change things. Only fly off in the squad, Manie de Bok. Then scrum halves: Jaden Hendrickse, Herschel Yankees, and Kobus Reinach. Basically the three that they really haven't. Kobus Reinach got time at Loftus, but we haven't seen him since. Jaden Hendrickse obviously was away because of the family bereavement, and Herschel Yankees hasn't had a shot. So I'd say probably two of those, probably Jaden and Herschel get the two roles there, and it'd be interesting to see probably Jaden start and Herschel be on the bench, and obviously to try and give them some game time and spread the load. Loose utility forwards: Dion Fourie and Franco Mostert. Dion can obviously also cover hooker if he needs to. Franco can obviously cover lock, so they're great to have in that squad. The loose forwards: Jean-Luc Dupré, Evan Roos, and Jasper Visser. Jasper obviously played the first game, hasn't played since. The other two, Evan was on the bench at Loftus. Jean-Luc Dupré hasn't had a shot yet, so I expect he's going to start. Between those five that are there, I think you'll have two on the bench, and I wouldn't be surprised if Dion Fourie starts somewhere, and maybe Evan Roos. I'm not sure how they do that one, but Evan Roos and Jean-Luc Dupré probably do need an extended run, and so they probably get quite a bit of game time there as well. Locks: Luit, Diache, John Klein, and Marvin Uri. Of those, obviously, Lewitt and Marvin can both call lineouts. I think Marvin probably, one of them will be on the bench again. Jean Klein and Franco Mostert can also cover off the bench, so it'd be an interesting choice there. I'd see Lewitt getting a bit more game time, and I wouldn't be surprised if Jean Klein also gets a starting role in this one. Joseph Dweba and Bongi as the two hookers. Joseph will probably start. He hasn't really had game time yet, so I think they'll give him a go to spread the load. Then looking at the props, Thomas du Toit, Steven Kitshoff, Vincent Koch, Gerard Steenkamp and Trevor Nyakane. I think we'll probably see Gerard Steenkamp getting his debut this week. I think they will. He's been in the squad now for a couple of weeks, travelled to New Zealand with them, and is a very underrated prop. He's really one of the rising stars of South African rugby, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see him somewhere in that match 23. I was a bit surprised at Steven Kitshoff being there, but then again, it comes down to being a captaincy candidate, and I think that's why he may be there. But looking at the other props, Thomas du Toit, Vincent Koch, and Trevor Nyakane, look, you're going to probably see two full front rows there, so you'll have two of those. Trevor, Vincent, and Thomas can be all swing either side, so I think you'll probably see Gerard Steenkamp getting. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a starting berth this week, depending on what they do with the captaincy, of course. But you'd see probably two of the others also there, other than the one and start on the bench. I don't really think it matters who starts and who goes on the bench, which brings us to the captaincy. So out of all those players there, Steven Kitshoff's an obvious candidate for leading the Stormers as captain. And the Kanye Arm has obviously led the Sharks, so he's the other obvious candidate. No one really jumps out other than maybe Dion Fourie. And the reason that Dion Fourie jumps out at you is the following: he has captained the Stormers and Western Province before. He is an extremely good leader, and he's part of the senior group in provincial level. He's seen as a guy who could play an immense role. Think of Skulk Brits at the 2019 World Cup. Somebody who's got the experience, who can play both loose forward and hooker, so he's extremely versatile in the World Cup squad. And he can also captain the side for a midweek game as well. So that would be my left field choice, is a guy like Dion Fourie. I think you might see him there, but I think the most obvious ones, Lekanya would be an obvious choice and Stephen would be an obvious choice. But if you look at the way the Springboks normally pick the captains, they on record as saying they like a captain to be close to the refs, so somewhere close amongst the forwards. So Lekanya might be ruled out in terms of that. I wouldn't be surprised at Dion Fourie. That'd be I think it might shock some people, but not really if you've been close to the team and you understand their choice there. If it comes out anywhere else, Thomas du Toit is also captained as well. I'm trying to think, none of the hookers, none of the locks have captain. Marvin Orie could be a captaincy candidate. He's captained at other levels as well if he is in the starting lineup. Don't see any of the other forwards captaining. Who knows? Maybe they come up with a rabbit in a hat that we don't know of. Yet, saying all that, so what does that leave us with the squad? It's very much a mix and match team of players who haven't had much game time, players who haven't had the opportunity yet, and players with something to prove. There's a lot of players who we're looking at probably, if you look at it, positions 21 to 33 in the World Cup squad, and that's what this game goes about. They're happy to take the risk in playing away from home in Buenos Aires, where the odds are going to be against them, and they've put up this challenge to the players. Come, show us what you can do, and let's see what we get out of that. Players who stick up their hands will have a very good chance of going to the World Cup and probably cementing their places there. And it could also be a place where the men are separated from the boys. I think we've seen already what happened when Argentina played well at Ellis Park. I think they're really going to be a bigger challenge in Buenos Aires, but that's the challenge for the Springboks. These are the future. A lot of these guys are the future of Springbok rugby, so you'd want them to stand up. There's no bigger cauldron, I suppose, than playing there or playing in New Zealand in the Rugby Championship. And this is the final game, the final chance to impress the selectors before the World Cup announcement. So this is the chance they're going to take. It'll be interesting to see. It's going to be a very interesting selection. Saying that, we'll chat again after the selection is made. I'll do another video just in a bit of reaction on that. Keep an eye out also on Thursday for Liam Delcom, the Sunday Times rugby writer, and my podcast called To The Last Drop. It's on all the major podcast platforms. And yeah, we'll be discussing this selection and what happened at Ellis Park, and we have a very, very special guest on the show there as well. So yeah, keep a lookout for that and subscribe if you haven't. It's always good to make these videos, and thanks. Give feedback. I quite enjoy reading the comments. Cheers.